Hey everyone, this is Brian with OBEDIA, and my friends at Lexicon Pro have asked me to do an overview of their PCM native reverb effect plugin bundle. And today I'm going to be talking about the Random Hall plugin that I'm going to be making use of here in Pro Tools. This is part of this great suite, which includes 7 different awesome Lexicon plugins, all which will allow you to bring in some awesome reverb sounds into your production. So you'll want to check out our other videos on these plugins if you're interested in finding out more about them. These plugins are available for Mac and PC in RTAS, VST, and audio unit formats. So you should be able to use these in just about any digital audio workstation that you happen to be working with at home or in your studio. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to show you guys some audio clips here and some comparisons and give you an idea of what this great plugin sounds like. Now, all of the plugins in the PCM native reverb plugin bundle look very much the same in their overall interface. And this is really, really useful because what this means is that you're not going to spend a lot of time relearning a plugin interface. You're just going to be able to go back and forth between all these different plugins and really dial in your mix very quickly, which is great when you're mixing a lot of audio. It's nice to not have to remember where a setting is in a plugin or something along those lines. So let's talk a little bit about the interface here of the Random Hall plugin, and then we'll play you some audio samples. So first off, if we take a look on the top left-hand corner of the plugin, we're going to see the algorithm that we're currently using, and also in the center here inside of the real-time display, we will see the name of the algorithm that we're using. However, the real-time display is also useful for being able to do a number of other different mixing features, and we'll talk about that in just a moment here. In the top half of the plugin interface, we have our category pull down, and this is where we can click and find the spaces which we have access to inside of the plugin, anywhere from small spaces up to our user presets and our large halls. All of these are going to change the presets that are available to us. So if we click on our preset pull down, we're going to see a number of different plugins depending on what setting it is that we are currently using. So one thing that I do like here is that by clicking on this menu and selecting user presets, I can go directly to my user presets and just make use of those. Again, a great way to speed up your mixing style when you are working in your audio workstation. However, in this case, I've chosen small spaces, and you'll notice immediately I have a number of different plugins available to me in the plugin pull-down menu. On the right-hand side of the interface right here, I have my EQ section. This is very, very easy to make use of. The EQ pull-down menu allows me to choose any of the 6 EQ types to be applied to the active section, anywhere from 1-pole low pass going all the way up to notch settings. Very, very easy to make use of. I also have level control and a number of other parameters for frequency and shelf available to me right here. And each of these, as I make changes, will be reflected in the overall visual menu here that is available to me in my EQ. You'll also notice 2 buttons, the early and the late selectors. These select which EQ section is currently being edited. Early will include reflections, direct echo outputs, and room patterns, and then late will include the reverb tails. So by clicking on these, I can edit those 2 different sections of my EQ and overall how I am going to apply my EQ to my source audio being fed into my plugin. If I take a look at the left-hand side and center of the console here, I have, of course, input and output meters, useful for keeping an eye on my input and outgoing signal. And here in the center, I have my real-time display. If I click on this, I have the option to choose between my multi-band display, frequency, and impulse. And all I need to do is just simply click with my mouse to choose each of these. So these can be very, very useful, and I'll show these to you guys in just a moment here. Very useful for being able to mix a little bit with my eyes, as well as, of course, using my ears, which will be my final judge of character when I am mixing, but it's nice to have a visual representation of how I am working with my audio as well. If we take a look at the bottom half of the plugin, you'll notice that a large portion of it is dedicated to these faders. Now, each of these faders is going to control a different feature and function parameter of the plugin. In this case, I have a number of different parameters which are available to me, but this section can also be very useful for being able to customize my overall mixing style inside of the Lexicon plugin. And I will tell you guys just a little bit more about that as we go on and how it is that we can customize these faders to really match our mixing style. Now, I know that you guys want to hear how this plugin affects our audio, so let's play some audio samples right here. I have a male voice recording inside of Pro Tools. I'm going to play that dry for you, and then I'm going to unbypass the plugin and play a little bit of audio through the plugin. So let's listen to this dry first.
You got the world laid upon your shoulders. I can't imagine who placed it there.
So very nice recording. Again, it's a dry recording. I am not having to instantiate a lot of hardware in my studio now as I am recording any type of instrumentation and therefore coloring my sound. I don't need to do that anymore because, of course, in digital audio, I have the wonderful ability to add all of those effects in the post-production process, which is what I'm going to start doing here by instantiating and making use of the Random Hall plugin in my session. So I'm going to unbypass this. I'm going to start off with my small spaces. If I click on the pull-down menu, you're going to see a number of different studio preset names. And then I will also see at the bottom I have some tiled room settings. So, of course, these made to emulate a tiled room sound. So I'm going to start off with Studio A, and I'm going to make use immediately of one of the faders in my fader section here, drop my mix down just a little bit so that I can get a nice mixture between the dry and the wet signal being fed into and out of my Random Hall plugin. So let's play this and see what it sounds like. And I'll also show you immediately here as well how it is that we can make use of the real-time display at the same time. So here we go.
You got the world laid upon your shoulders. I can't imagine who placed it there.
So very, very nice small space sound going on right there. Let's listen to another one of these studio settings. Let's try Studio B.
You got the world laid upon your shoulders. Can't imagine who placed it.
So again, quick and easy changes that I can make here to the overall mixing sound that I have coming out of my plugin, simply by grabbing hold of some of these faders in the bottom of the plugin interface and making those changes, in this case to pre-delay and diffusion, a little bit to the reverb time as well, and of course I can hear a difference immediately in that preset. Now, let's try out another one of these categories. Let's click on the pull-down menu and select the small halls. And we'll start off with let's just start off with a small hall, of course, just one of these first presets.
You got the world laid upon your shoulders. Can't imagine who placed it.
Very nice small hall sound going on right there. Let's try some other different settings here in the small halls setting.
You got the world laid upon your shoulders. Can't imagine who placed it there.
Now you can see that as I change between presets, of course, my faders are going to change as well, because each of these presets has been designed by Lexicon to match a number of different sounds, depending on the type of sound that I would like to make use of in my production. Let's click on the category again here. Let's go to medium halls. Let's jump around a little bit in our audio so that we can try out some different sounds. And let's make use of a different medium hall sound here. Let's make use of a dark hall sound and see how this sounds.
You should have gone looking on the inside. I should have gone looking on the inside.
Nice sound going on right there. And again, I can really dial in my sound by making use of the faders here in my fader section of the plugin. Now, of course, if I wanted to be a little more selective on my sound, I could also dial in my EQ a little bit as well making use of those early and late buttons depending on which part of the sound I would like to apply equalization to. Let's try out a large hall.
You should have gone looking on the inside. I should have gone looking on the inside.
Nice large hall sound going on right there, with a lot of different reverberations happening from that random hall algorithm. So I get a lot of different characteristics, of course, in the overall mix, which really I would only be able to get if I were to find a very, very large space such as this and be able to record in it, which is just not something a lot of us are able to do. So you can see all of these different sounds and how it is that they are going to affect our overall mix, depending on what it is that we might be looking for based on our instrumentation and what kind of effect we happen to be looking for. Let's talk a little bit about the fader section at the bottom of the Random Hall plugin right here. And that's because this is a very, very useful section of the plugin, which is really going to allow us to customize exactly how it is that we want to interface with it as we are working in our mix. Now, I had mentioned earlier that we have a number of different labels applied to each of the different faders here in the fader section. But each of these labels is actually hard-coded to a setting which we can change anytime we would like, and we can do that by clicking on the Edit button. This is going to allow us to access the soft row. Now, the soft row is a quickly editable and customizable section of this plugin, which allows us to make changes to exactly what it is that we're going to control with these faders. You're going to notice that right next to the label, which I have here at the top of my fader, I have another label listed in yellow text. If I click on that, I'm going to get a pop-out menu, and in this pop-out menu, I can choose to control any number of different parameters and features of the plugin. So in this case, if I wanted to take over the reverb size control, all I need to do is click on size, and now that setting is going to be hard-coded to this first fader inside of the plugin. And I can do that for any of the other options and faders which I have accessible here to me in the soft row. So what this lets me do is really customize my plugin exactly as I would like it to match my own mixing style. So the soft row is very, very useful to you, depending on how it is that you like to customize your own plugin. Now, if you want to compare some of the settings that you've done, you can click on the Compare button. When you click the Compare button, you're going to put the plugin into compare mode, and this is going to allow you to go back and forth and compare settings and changes which you have made inside of the plugin. If you find something that you really like, you can click on the Store button, and here you can enter a preset name and be able to save your own preset inside of this plugin, which will allow you to quickly and easily access that setting yet again in another session anytime that you might want to pull up those same settings again. Now, if I also want to dive in a little further into the tweaking and the customization of my plugin, I can start to take a look at the tabs here on the bottom part of the plugin. The first one is the input and mix setting, and this is going to allow me to access exactly that, the input and mix settings for the plugin. So here I have my mix fader. I also have pre-delay, diffusion, shape, and spread. All of these are different settings which I can, of course, link to my soft row or make edits to inside of the input and mix tab. If I click on the Reverb tab, I can start to edit the reverb settings for this plugin and dive much more in depth into the settings and parameters for this plugin. I can make changes to the size and the reverb time. And you're also going to notice that some of these parameters will also have one separate option which I can, in some cases, turn on or off or change depending on if that option is available for that parameter. In the case of reverb time, I can turn infinite on or infinite off. And this is going to allow me to change exactly if that reverb can go on to an infinite scale or not. You'll also notice that in the case of the high cut setting right here, I can choose exactly the type of damping that I would like to make use of inside of this parameter for the plugin. So this allows me again to dial in my mix exactly as I would like it. Finally, if I click on the Reflections tab, this is going to allow me to actually change the reflection control for the plugin, and this is where I can get very, very, very in-depth with the overall programming of the plugin and really find exactly the sound that I like. Again, right here, I have an option to be able to change some of the different settings for each of these faders. In the case of this delay control, I can click and switch between absolute and tempo modes. And then in the case of the gain for that delay setting, I can click to select between normal and inverted settings for the gain. So you'll notice that some of these faders will have these options and some of them will not. So this will all depend on how it is that you would like to affect your final overall mix. So each of these options is really going to allow you to dial in your plugin exactly as you would like, and of course culminating up to the soft row, which is going to allow you to really customize your plugin exactly as you would like it to be. So again, in summary, the Lexicon Random Hall, it's part of the PCM Native Reverb plugin bundle. Really a great way to be able to get an awesome hall sound to your recordings, but with a little bit of those characteristics that you would not always expect to be able to capture in your average software plugin. Just a quick overview of some of the different parts we've made use of in this plugin. Of course, in the top left-hand corner, we have the algorithm name listed relating to the type of plugin that we're currently using. We have our category pull down, which allows us to switch between categories, and as we switch categories, we will also have different presets available to us. We have our EQ section, which is going to allow us to equalize specific parts of the overall reverb plugin sound, depending on what it is that we choose to take control of. And of course, we have a graphical display, which is going to give us an idea of how we're applying that EQ to those different sections. We have our input and output meters, and in the center, we have our real-time display, very useful for mixing with our eyes as well as our ears. And then finally, of course, we have our fader section down here on the bottom half of the plugin. One of the most useful features, of course, being the soft row, allowing us to click and select different options which we can hard code to these faders and make available to us as we are going through our mixing process, and of course save our plugins for recalling in later sessions and compare these settings depending on the type of changes that we made and how it is that we would like to see how they are affecting our overall production. So again, guys, I hope that you found this useful and that you are able to start adding some great new reverb sounds to your productions after checking out this video. Please check out our other videos on these awesome plugins from Lexicon Pro, and I hope that you guys have some great music making ahead of you. Thanks so much for watching, and take care.